Every year, high school valedictorians appear to represent the best and the brightest of America's young people. But as John Yang reports, for recent graduates in Boston, the reality can often be very different.
Judy, over the past year, the Boston Globe tracked down 93 of the 113 valedictorians in the city's public high school classes of 2005 to 2007. While nearly 80% of them did become the first in their families to go to college, often on scholarships, their ambitions were not always fulfilled. Fully 1/4 of them did not finish college within 6 years, and today 40% earn less than $50,000 a year. Malcolm Gay is one of the Boston Globe reporters who worked on this massive project, and he joins us from the studios of PBS station WGBH in Boston. Malcolm, thanks for joining us. You call this, or the paper calls this, an epidemic of untapped potential. What happened to the ambitions of these young men and women?
Well, I think oftentimes they come out of school, they are positioned for success or seemingly positioned for success. They oftentimes go to school with generous scholarships that are dependent on their GPA, and then quickly realize that the Boston Public Schools has not given them the tools to really succeed in an academic, in a rigorous academic environment. And so oftentimes that's the beginning of the obstacles that they encounter, and those obstacles increase over time.
This was a multimedia project. You have taped interviews on the website with some of these valedictorians. We want to play one from Madeline Disla. What do we need to know, or what should we know, the viewers know about Madeline before they hear this tape?
Well, Madeline is like a lot of the valedictorians in the Boston Public Schools. She came over to the United States as an immigrant, in her case from the Dominican Republic, and ended up valedictorian of Charleston High School, and went to Dartmouth University, one of the great schools in the country.
So let's take a listen to her story, and then we'll talk about it at the other side.
Well, I did not benefit so much from being valedictorian, other than I really got a good scholarship and went to a really good school. Yeah, I think my mother not being here in the country, seeing how much my family struggled, I think that motivated me. But then I struggled the same way, so.
You're all set. And your face, and then.
I was pregnant and homeless. So I was in a shelter.
You good?
It was a hard time. At a lot of points throughout college, I just felt like this is too much for me. And I felt like I fooled myself during high school, thinking that, I was so smart and I can handle it. Because I was really quick to understand a lot of things in high school, but college came and it was very different.
We should say that she was homeless after she graduated from Dartmouth. She couldn't find a job. What did her story represent among the valedictorians you talked to?
Well, I think Madeline's story is one of the more tragic that we found, to tell you the truth. That said, she's one of 4 valedictorians that we spoke with that ended up homeless. Several of them, or a few of them, with children in the homeless shelters. Madeline, I think it's shocking that when you think that she graduated from a place like Dartmouth College only to wind up homeless. That to me, and I think that our reporting bears out, that these individuals come from family situations, social situations, where they don't have a lot of the privileges that upper middle class families may have, and so when they find themselves struggling with obstacles, they oftentimes have to take desperate measures. In her case, that means ending up in a homeless shelter.
You compared these Boston graduates to graduates the same year from suburban high schools around the city. What did you find?
We found a dramatic difference in opportunity and achievement. The suburban valedictorians were roughly 3 times more likely than Boston valedictorians to earn $100,000 or more per year. Something like 1/4 of Boston valedictorians wanted to be doctors. Today, there's not a single doctor among that cohort. Meanwhile, with the suburbans, there are 8 doctors.
And you also compared, or I should say that in Boston, there are two tiers of high schools. You've got exam schools, you've got a test into them, and then the other public high schools. And there was also a difference between those schools, is that right?
That's correct. I think the exam schools are a real issue within the Boston Public Schools. About a quarter of all Boston Public high schoolers go to exam schools, and while that may sound like a great thing, the exam schools test higher on standardized tests. They oftentimes go to four-year colleges compared to the rest of the district. What that also means is that the rest of the district is oftentimes burdened with having to educate court-adjudicated kids, kids that are economically disadvantaged, special need kids. And so the burden on the rest of the system is quite high because of this exam school formulation that Boston has embraced for so long.
Essentially, they skim off the cream of the students into these 3 exam schools.
That's very well said.
The classes that you looked at were obviously graduating into the teeth of the recession. Is there any sense that subsequent classes are doing better? Subsequent valedictorians?
Well, that's right. I mean, I think that a lot of the, we started this project by looking at the Faces of Excellence feature that we do each year, and we started doing that in 2005. So as it happened, these kids were really graduating into the teeth of the Great Recession. My sense is that the students that have come after that, and this is purely anecdotal, that the students that have come after that have done somewhat better, and that's partially because scholarship programs and mentoring programs have become much more sophisticated in how they deal with first-gen students. Many of these students are first-generation college. They're entering college as the first of their family, and what these scholarship and mentoring programs have found is that you can't just simply give them tuition. You have to actually offer mentoring programs and counseling programs and things like that to allow these kids to really succeed.
Malcolm Gay of the Boston Globe on the Valedictorians Project. It can be found on the website bostonglobe.com. Malcolm Gay, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.